Metaphysician's Companion.
Oh, good afternoon, John.
Oh, good afternoon, Graham.
Hello, listeners. Nice to hear you. I hope you're hearing us well today. I think I've decided the subject for today, if that's okay. I thought we'd talk about healing processes, spiritual healing processes, from the metaphysical point of view. And there are many types of healing processes, and I've made a whole list, so I'll read a few of them off to you. There's yoga healing, there's energy healing, there's prayers, there's sound healing, there's shamanic healing, breath work, visualization, EFT, tapping. Have you ever done that?
Me, no.
That's an interesting one.
It, yeah.
Journaling, crystal healing, of course, Tai Chi, Congo. What do they call it?
Qigong.
Qigong, yes. See, you know this is a live podcast because we can't get it right. Qigong, yes. Mantras and many other forms. Now, is there any, what's the word I'm looking at, benefit to these, and do they really work? That is the question.
Well, I reckon there's benefit in all of them.
Yeah, but the benefit is I don't think it is basically that if you benefit from it in the sense that it will fix a physical illness, but it will only do that in an indirect form.
Well, it won't cure your dandruff or heal your broken arm, but it does. The mind-body, the whole mind-body thing, I think, is definitely proven. That is that. If you're happy and laugh, you get well quicker because it recruits other aspects of your being.
It's like if you do exercise, you increase the endorphins, and therefore you're better to cope with any viruses and stuff that come along.
And doing exercise alters the way you feel in an emotional sense. If your body is healthy, you actually feel more, what should I say, upbeat.
Yeah.
Whereas if you think yourself, anytime you've had a cold or something and you feel miserable, it goes hand in hand, body, mind and emotions.
Because for me, the so-called spiritual healing processes are really all about dealing with emotional dramas in one's life, and which are embedded in one's conscious and subconscious mind. And it's about releasing that negativity in the body because it gets stored in the body. I think we've mentioned this, talked about this before. And people like Bruce Lipton talk about this. So it's about releasing that energy and replacing that energy with another form of energy. And it doesn't matter what you use, whether you're a crystal healer or you place crystals on the body and whatever, you're actually, in a sense, using the same process. You're basically trying to remove something that's embedded within the psyche of the person so their mind works better, therefore the whole body works better.
Well, the way that I understand it is that we think, there's consciousness in the mind, a consciousness in the emotions, and a consciousness within the body. And these are just three different aspects of our being in this world. And it doesn't matter which one you start on, but you do need to pay attention to all three. And it's like if you start, positive thinking for starters. Mm-hmm. If you start positive thinking, then it will have an effect on your thinking, but not necessarily on your emotions unless you actually make a point of listening to your feelings.
Well, the same can go with affirmations.
That's exactly the sort of thing.
Affirmations is basically a form of reprogramming. But if the affirmation is around your health and your emotional health, that you want to improve that, for example, then it may have an effect in a different way. It may allow you to find the methodology of removing that.
When you say affirmations, what I'm thinking you mean is that it's not just saying, I am healthy and happy, but taking that affirmation and dropping it into your subconscious mind. Yeah, is that right?
Yeah, of course. So but as you know, if you repeat things enough, it gets into the subconscious
Eventually,
mind.
yeah. But I think these processes that we're talking about, what do you say, functional methodologies for improving the transfer from just saying the words to becoming embedded in your everyday thoughts.
Yeah.
Not consciously, but up below, and that's where it starts working.
Because your mind then starts to look for and find methods to actually improve that health of your body and your mind. Because you've got to the point. The starting point is you've got yourself thinking, I need to improve myself. I need to find ways, and
when it becomes automatic.
Yes,
that's
so you automatically start to look for methodologies, and you may come across one of these other ones we've just talked about on my list. And it may be crystal healing, it may be aura healing, it may be chakra healing, or it could be any of these things. But in themselves, they don't mean much. It's about the processes that you go through with these particular systems.
Yeah. It's like, I did a massage course many years ago, and the physiology lecturer said, which medical system works best? Like, is it acupuncture, herbal medicines, like Western medicine, or whatever? He says, it's the one you think will work. And he was a medical doctor.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what he's saying is that if you are oriented towards this will make me better, this will improve my health, then it's recruited your body to accept the treatment that's coming in. And I think the same is with these methodologies. If you start looking for something, the one that appeals to you is the right one for you.
I mean, I can, talking from my own experiences when because I've been to various spiritual healers, but what I've really noticed with them all, it's all about dealing with an emotional block or something that's happened to me in my life, which is, how do you put it, has hurt me emotionally and is stuck within my physical body as much as it is in my mind. And the process they use is of putting energy, as they call it, into the parts of the body where this energy is lodged, for want of a better word.
Well, the way I understand it all is a process, and a process is like an ongoing series of events that lead to an outcome. And what happens, like I said, you have an emotional response to a situation, and if you push it to the back of your mind, it winds up in the body. And the body works, but it's a process. The heart beats, the blood flows around, it carries oxygen, it removes waste and so forth. It goes to different organs. And if you're tense in your muscles, for example, that slows the flow of the blood, and as a consequence reduces the health of whatever portion of that body, of your body, that is taking place in. And there is an energy, whether you call it prana or chi or energy, there is some flow as well that's less physical, and that this flow can get disturbed in the same way that you can have tense muscles. You can have stagnation.
And that's when the healer locks into that, for want of a word, locks into that energy and follows the path of that energy to find where you've lodged this particular thing that's gone on in your life. And then it's about removing that block or that happening in your life that's affected you in a negative way emotionally. And this is where, again, we talked about forgiveness in the previous one. This is where things like forgiveness come in, because
it's a letting go.
It's a letting go of this and moving through this. And just by doing that changes the whole part, that part of your body. It releases that tension, for whatever words, I use your word, tension, I wouldn't call it that, but there is that
We could call it a memory.
memory that is lodged there, which is actually doing you harm rather than good. So you can deal with that emotional negativity that's been hanging on for you for years and years and years, and this alone will then changes your whole outlook to life or your whole psyche, because you start looking at things without that anymore. It disappears.
Oh, yeah.
So what I'm trying to say is that spiritual healing, for want of a better word, is more about removing emotional blocks and energies which you've incorporated through life, through happenings that you've had, things happening to you that you've caused, not been able to let go of.
Yeah, and sometimes it's just a simple habit. As humans, we learn by observing others, our family of origin, and we observe and we learn the way to act based on what we see. And we tend to hide those aspects of ourselves that don't seem to fit into the environment we find ourselves in. And so that's what I mean. It's not necessarily a traumatic event, but a habit event. It's like you take on a habit of being in the world. Like, if you grew up with an angry father.
And you feel as though you're not worthy because of this or that.
Or that you learn and you see and go, oh, that's how I am supposed to be in the world as a grown man.
Yeah.
Well, my father wasn't like that. But, yeah, I've seen it, like families walking down the street and you see the children imitating the parents.
Mm-hmm.
And you can learn to imitate I was going to say deficiency, an error of judgment in the sample that you have, your adult.
Yeah. And if something untoward happens in that relationship, like, you see your mother beaten or something like that, that has an effect on you. So you may carry for the whole of your life, unless you can remove it in some form.
Yeah.
And it's also about trying to, can you forgive your father for doing that, for example?
Well, like I say, the forgiveness, as you pointed out, was one way of letting it go.
Yeah.
And with acupuncture, for example, they stick the needles in.
Yeah.
And because they're saying the whole energy system of body follows a certain pattern of flow, like their circulatory system. And so they'll stick a needle in to tonify, like to amplify the action of certain areas, and others they try and suppress it. Like things that are overactive, they reduce, and things that are not active enough, they try to lift up.
So the point of view from, say, a spiritual journey is maybe why should you look at these modalities, for example? Why should you look at them? Why should you consider them? And as you've said before, it's what you feel is right at the time that you should go with.
Oh, in the yoga.
In yoga?
In yoga, they have obstacles on the path. And the path is to, we'll call it spiritual fulfillment.
Yeah.
And the first one is ill health. Being, like that, it's a distraction from being able to follow the path. And the next one I think is something like having I'm trying to get this one, like the view of yourself is incorrect. You've fixated more on the world around you rather than on expressing who you are.
Yeah, so the inner being of you.
Yeah.
So in a sense, going through this conversation is that spiritual healing, for want of a better word, is a way of finding the inner you rather than the outer you.
Oh, yeah.
It's a way of finding that inner personality that is in a sense perfect when it starts, when it arrives, but imperfect as life goes on. So it's about removing the obstacles that stop you finding that your higher beingness, for want of a better word, is a way of allowing your consciousness to move to another place, because you are removing that negativity of this life experiences out of your life.
Yeah, a lot of certainly a lot of yoga, it falls under the category of psychology. The fact that it actually addresses things like prana, and a flowing energy is outside of that field normally. And that's the main difference, is that it has a different way of talking about these processes that take place within the human. And that's the different systems will have different ways of representing this flow within, this flow of life within. And whether that be looking at the elements the way that they do in the tarot, and astrology, and the Chinese, like in acupuncture and martial arts and the Qigong you mentioned.
Yeah, Qigong.
And that's a slightly different way of looking at it. So, it doesn't matter how you talk about it. It's what what those words represent that's important.
And some of these methodologies actually have you doing certain movements, like Qigong is a movement stuff. You do movements to remove things, where hands-on spiritual healing is about working with the auric body, etc., etc. So there's different methodologies and different ways of getting there. But what I think we were trying to say, tell me if I'm wrong, is that these so-called healing practices are more about opening up one's consciousness to who one really is, or one's higher self.
Oh, yeah.
And it's a part of the journey that each individual can take. And it's a choice whether you go along these pathways or not. Some people don't want to know at all and live in that physical world as it is, and the values of what they're given to live in. Other people think there must be more to life than this, and they're looking for a way to find who they really are rather than who they present to the world is. Would that be a good description, John?
Oh yeah. Yeah, look, it's quite okay to go and practice Hatha Yoga as a physical discipline. And by doing that, you actually gain mental discipline. To hold a pose for a length of time requires the exercise of the will. And that is, you will get, even if you're practicing it as a simple physical exercise to improve the health of your body. Similarly to some of the, like if you go in some of the martial arts or Tai Chi, it's this focus and looking at the movement. And sometimes people wake up and go, wait a minute, there is more to this than meets the eye. And that's the bit that I find interesting, when curiosity kicks in and says, what I learned as a child is a description of the world that is not complete.
And it's a bit like mindfulness and meditation. Mindfulness is the start of a meditation. If you then move from mindfulness to meditation, and you move from meditation to working through your auric body through your meditation, that again is a process. You have, and it's again of choices, whether you just want to be in mindfulness, or you want to actually just want to meditate, or you want to move on from that meditation and incorporate other disciplines. I don't know, disciplines.
I'm glad you used that word.
Disciplines into the process, and it's adding these disciplines that actually make the difference, that actually you start to look at life and look at yourself in different ways.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that word discipline, because it was on my mind as you were speaking there. And it's one of the things that I learned early on was that discipline is often used as an external authority applying punishment to achieve a behavioural change. However, within yoga or martial arts or any of that sort of area, discipline is something I do. I choose to follow this pathway of physical regime because I see that it brings benefits. And what I'm doing is disciplining my physical body, my emotional body, my mental, my way of being. And this is what discipline it is. It gives me the ability to choose what to do, to choose the path without reacting from external stimuli.
But again, discipline also has the benefit of becoming a methodology of re-educating your mind as well, because
Exactly.
it's constant, and therefore that discipline becomes a habit.
Exactly.
And once that discipline becomes a habit, it becomes even more powerful because it becomes part of who you are.
It becomes easier to do.
So it's no longer, you're no longer pushing your mind to get there, but you're actually automatically going there. Discipline becomes the habit, and a positive habit, not a negative habit. What we're talking about. So the discipline of meditation. People say, "Oh, I can't meditate," but you have to keep it up. You can't just do it once and say, "Oh, it didn't work." Maybe it's something you have to do 20, 30 times, or do it for 3 months before it becomes a habit. And when it becomes a habit, where you find your life is different because you do it,
Yeah.
and therefore the habit then becomes a reason because your life is improving through doing it. Then you move from that habit of meditation into, say, habit of looking at your auric body, for example, and your chakras, and that starts to become a habit. When you start to look at the habit of your energy centers and where they can do. I mean, again, it's a question of, your habit then turns into learning and whatever, and you keep on then work through it, and you can develop from that habit. So this is where the spiritual healing comes in, because, again, you can actually work on yourself as much as having somebody else do it for you. So you could go and see a spiritual healer who works with the chakras or works with crystals or whatever it may be. But you actually can do it yourself, because once the habit becomes a real habit, and that habit can build into further habits and disciplines, and those disciplines enable you then to work within yourself, with yourself.
Yeah, what you were talking about then reminded me of, again, when I was very much younger, people would talk about having a guru.
Oh, yes.
A guide, or, like if LSD trips, one would have a guide. And it's like, let's imagine the spiritual world is like a dark forest. And the choice is, do you recruit someone to guide you into and through the forest and point out which plants are safe and which are dangerous, which animals you need to pay attention to? Or do you load yourself up with information and go adventuring all by yourself?
Or you do both.
You can do both, yeah.
Yeah, because the guru may be the start of the journey.
Yeah.
But then you can say, okay, I don't need that guru anymore, because I now have the tools and the will and the discipline.
Yeah, you see, this is where I was going with this one, is the difference between an authority and a guide. And it's one of the things that I really distrusted a lot of these authorities. I still do, actually.
Yeah.
People could say, this is the way it is, all you have to do is believe these 7 things.
But you and I know that's not true.
Exactly, yeah. However, some of these people can still be of help if you realise, take it as a guideline and then test the guideline to see if it works. Because that's the thing is, I have to make it real for myself. Just accepting what you say the way it is, yeah.
Well, I've told you in the past, when we talked, I had a lady who helped me learn a lot of stuff, but it was all about not her doing it. It was about me getting the education from what she did, and she would share that education in various forms. So you could say that was a guru, but it was a different type. It was somebody who was actually there not only just for themselves, but they were there for you to move on. So here's a couple of tools, give them a go and see what happens.
Yes, well, I think the original purpose and meaning of the word guru is someone who makes light of that which is dark.
Oh, right, okay.
And I think that's what all of this stuff is about.
Yeah.
Is bringing the light of consciousness into an area that is dark.
Yeah. True. Well, how are we going with time there? Okay, well, my thoughts are now that if anybody out there listening would like us to talk about a particular subject in spiritual healing or of any sort, then please let us know, because we would like to help and discuss that if we can. But we thought we'd just do this general outline today, because we thought it was important for you to get the our understanding of what it really was, and
Yeah,
obviously
even in the broadest sense.
in a broader sense. But if you want some more focus on certain things, then please do let us know.
Absolutely.
You can actually, leave a comment on Spotify or leave a comment on YouTube, or you can send us an email, John.
At metphyscompanion.com. Sorry, try that again. metphyscompanion@gmail.com. That's
Gmail.
METPHYS companion@gmail.com.
So on that note, we look forward to talking to you before, and please share this podcast with your friends if you enjoy it. And we look forward to speaking to you again.
Have you with us next time. So bye from me.
Bye from me.